let you go first. A boom or bust 2025 candidate for you is?
To me, it's Washington Commanders. I talked about this a little bit. Just everything about their regression metrics just is screaming that this team can't do what it did last year. Look, we all know, like, if you just think about the Commander season, Hail Marys, a touchdown against the Eagles with 7 seconds left, overtime. Like they just kept winning close games over and over and over. And that's hard to do year after year. They converted 87% of their fourth downs last year. A ridiculous rate that was the highest of the Super Bowl era. That can't happen again. They beat 11 teams that didn't make the playoffs last year. They don't get that many games against teams that didn't make the playoffs this year. Got a tougher schedule. So everything tells me that the Commanders are taking a pretty big step back this year. But I will say this, because we're talking about boom or bust, I also just totally believe in Jayden Daniels too. Like it is scary to go into a season saying I'm going to fade the Commanders. I don't think the Commanders are going to be that good. Jayden Daniels just might be that dude. He says regression, whatever. I don't care about any regression. I'm one of the top 5 players in the NFL already. Top 5 quarterbacks anyway. So yeah, they're to me a tough team to figure out. I am on the side of the Commanders are going to crash back to earth a little bit, not make the playoffs. And then maybe year 3 of Jayden Daniels is a big deal. But I also can't rule out just Jayden Daniels putting that team on his shoulders like he did last year and carry him far beyond what they should be.
I think part of the nuance in this conversation too is what does bust look like, right? Like when you've waited to be good for as long as Washington has waited to be good for that fan base. Now you finally get a good season. A bust, like a 10-win season, feels like a bust. If you told everybody last year, hey, you're going to win 10 games, they'd be throwing, a ticker tape parade.
Right.
So I think you got to understand that the context of where we think this team is right now. That's part of what makes this really interesting to me, because I do think that let's stack these things. Jayden Daniels, Terry McLaurin knows that he wants a new deal. If he doesn't get a new deal done, well, he's going to want to play his ass off. Not that he doesn't already, but even more motivation to try and get that big money, right? Like I can find all the reasons why things I still really believe in the coaching staff, but I'm with you. Luck is luck. And like, you can't do anything about the fact that last year, I've said it all the time to you, Frank, better to be lucky than good. The Commanders were both lucky and good last year. I just don't know how many years you get both of those things.
Right. And I think when you ask what's a bust year for the Commanders, it's just not making the playoffs. And that's crazy, right? Like it just changes so dramatically in one year where if the Commanders go 9-8 and miss the playoffs, I think they'd be very, very disappointed in that. And I get it. But I try to think of the Commanders this way. I don't think of it. Last year was a little bit of an outlier. Again, a ton of wins that I don't want to call necessarily luck because they were very good in these clutch situations, right? Like I know some people think that clutch doesn't exist. Well, it does. And I think Jayden Daniels is kind of one of those dudes who's going to end up being really, really good in those situations. And Elway, Tom Brady, one of those guys. I think he's going to be really, really good in the 2-minute drill at the end of games. He's just cool, calm, collected. I like everything about that. But at the same time, I try to think the whole picture. Last year, we're talking offseason 2024. Even though I was high in the Commanders, I understood it was a multi-year process. And I look at that roster now and I say, just because you won all these games and you made it to the NFC Championship game doesn't eliminate all the holes on the roster. I still look, they need a dynamic running back. I don't know that Deebo Samuel's necessarily fixing all their issues at receiver. Offensive line's better, but is it great? The defense, they didn't really address a lot of things on the defense. So I look at it and say, if last year would have just been, you go 9-8 and miss the playoffs, 8-9, you would have been a little bit excited, maybe a step forward this year. And by 2026, you really arrive. I don't think that timeline has changed too much because, again, I still, you got this, bright star at quarterback, and that does change the math. But I still look at this as a multi-year thing where they still need one more offseason really to fix what's wrong with that roster.
I'm going to go boom or bust in a much more controversial way because I like your take there, but I'm just going to rip the guardrails off and get weird. Boom or bust team for me. How about the Indianapolis Colts? Hear me out. Okay, hear me out. The Colts went 9-8 last year, and we forget that the Colts went 9-8 last year. In fact, the Colts went into the last game of the season.
Real quick, quick. I think they went 8-9. They did go 8-9. You might want to reset that.
They went 8. Hold on. Did they go 8-9?
I just looked it up. 8-9. I just looked it up.
Oh, I had it written down as 9-8. All right, they went 8-9 last year. My bad.
I just didn't watch it after. Okay, no problem.
No. Pick it up. That's good. That's good. I'm gonna rip the guardrails off. I'm gonna get weird. How about the Indianapolis Colts? All right, so hear me out. Okay, last year the Colts go into the last game of the season. They finished 8-9. They go into the last game of the season with a win and in shot in a really bad AFC South. We all know that. I don't think the AFC South is any better this year. So now all of a sudden I'm looking at a team that, with just an absolute disaster of a year at quarterback, still managed to put themselves in the conversation. They draft Tyler Warren, a player I really like. They get JTT to help him on the defensive line, and another player I really like. A couple of nice draft moves. Now, all they need is Daniel Jones to play like Daniel Jones did a few years ago, the year that he got paid. Like, I think Daniel Jones wins this
now.
job. So if Daniel Jones comes out and has that sort of Giants, like if he's this year's media darling of the quarterback that finds a way, come
Sam
on, Frank, I'm
Darnold.
walking
Is
myself into like,
is this your Sam
come on.
Darnold? Is that what we're saying? Is that right? I don't
Well, I
know. I
mean,
think
he can.
any plan that involves Daniel Jones, I don't know that I could sign off on. You're right, though. I was actually surprised. Like, you just forget things in an off season, and you view things as I swear to goodness, when I started doing that Colts preview, I was like, yeah, the Colts were like 5-12 last year, just because the negativity around them was so great. You just forget that. Oh yeah, they were actually kind of decent with. They finished 31st in passer rating last year. I think only ahead of the Browns. And you're like, well, if you just get bumped that up to 24th, maybe you're winning football. And I will say this, like, as much as this pains me to say, Daniel Jones does give them a better shot to compete right now, I think, unless Anthony Richardson has just flipped the switch, but we might not even know that because of the injury and whatnot. So I guess I get where you're coming from, but I just get tripped up in, well, if Daniel Jones plays well, I don't know.
Yeah, but there's one
He
every year,
played
Frank. Think about it.
okay
Like,
that one.
I mean, there's one every year. Like, nobody sat there and thought, "Oh my God, the Seahawks got Geno. This thing is about to turn around." And look at what happened. Like, nobody sat there and said Baker Mayfield is about to finally have that resurgence. It takes the right coach quarterback combo and a little bit of special sauce on it. We saw that last year in Minnesota. So I do think that the element of Shane Steichen's had his best success as an offensive coordinator with a quarterback that likes to run the football. That's particularly sort of a tough, mobile guy that can make some tough throws when he has to, but you don't really want to put the game on his shoulders in that way. Like, I'm describing, like, look, I get it that Jalen Hurts to Daniel Jones, like Daniel Jones is the wish.com version of Jalen Hurts. I get all of these things, but I do think, though, there's some element of like, maybe this is the one you order and it actually fits and you try it on. You're like, yeah, look good. I didn't have to pay retail price for it. Like, look, I just think that there's a math. Now, but the reason it's boomer bust is because if Daniel Jones is who most people think Daniel Jones is going to be, man, I could see the Colts actually being that 5-win team. Everything goes to hell in a handbasket and everybody gets fired at the end of this year. Like, it is truly boom. I think the Colts can win the AFC South, my friend. I genuinely, like,
Oh my
right
goodness.
now
Oh my
today,
goodness.
I'm picking the
Daniel
Colts. I'm
Jones.
going big. I'm picking the Colts. Colts are winning the division.
Wow. The Indianapolis Colts winning AFC South. Well, I will say this. The Houston Texans fans are going to hate us because
Yeah.
I'm going to go over the top here with my trump card, which is I think the Jacksonville Jaguars win that division. I'm all about the Jaguars this year. I'm all about Liam Cohen and that first year bump. They're my next boomer bust team, I guess, because I look at the Jaguars and say the talent's all there. Yes, Trevor Lawrence hasn't done it. I know you're going to kill me on the Trevor Lawrence thing, and I've agreed with you many times, but I'm buying in again. Lucy in the football, right? Like, this is Liam Cohen was so good last year. Like, he was excellent as the Buccaneers offensive coordinator, which does make me a little worried of how high I am on the Buccaneers as well, because they lose Liam Cohen. But how many times have we seen NFL Coach of the Year follow the same exact template? First year head coach takes over for a staff that had been kind of going through the motions. Doug Peterson, I'm talking about you, wasn't getting the most out of its roster. And then all of a sudden you see this bump up to like 11 wins. You win the division. You're coach of the year. You're up there at the NFL awards ceremony. I see that for Liam Cohen. Y'all could still talk about Duval and all that kind of stuff. I don't care. I think he's a really, really good coach. They just got an unbelievable once-in-a-lifetime player at Travis Hunter, drafted last year, maybe another generational type of receiver in Brian Thomas. He was unbelievable last year. I just see this Jaguars team, not without faults for sure, but And I guess that's why the bust possibility is there. What if Trevor Lawrence just isn't that dude? What if Travis Hunter just can't play both ways? What if Liam Cohen just had one good year? Because that's really all of his
I
track
mean,
record
look,
in NFL.
stick with
So
the
I
Liam.
get that.
Like
I get it.
the Liam thing is where we disagree. Like, because Dave Canales was supposed to be the franchise savior because of what he did with Baker. Maybe at some point we got to look around and be like, hey, it's not the coaches, it's Baker Mayfield. Like, Baker Mayfield is like, I'm
Could
looking
be.
at a Liam Cohen that was on Sean McVay's staff, and they're like, no, we're good. You go ahead and go back to Kentucky. And then he comes back to Sean
Yeah,
McVay's
I
staff. We're
know.
like, no, we're good. You go ahead and go somewhere else. Like, I'm still waiting for the team that we've seen just trip over themselves and fall over anything to try and keep Liam Cohen. I think Liam Cohen has a better chance of being a one and done head coach than he does of being coach of the year this year.
Oof. Wow.
I don't believe. I do not believe. I hope I'm wrong because I want everybody
How
to be
much of this is
successful.
how
And
much of
Jags
this is
fans,
Trevor? How much of this is Trevor? Because we've both look. I can't say I'm not doing a 180 here on Trevor Lawrence because we've sat in these seats usually on Sunday nights and we're like, all right, Trevor, when's it going to show up? When's Trevor? Did you see that pass Trevor missed? Blah blah. I get it. So how much of this is kind of the whole Trevor Lawrence just might not be that dude type of thing for you?
I mean, I think there is some element of how. This is what I will say. How much damage have the Jags done to Trevor Lawrence, and can he dig his way out of it? Like, that's, I'll continue. There's no way. You don't go from being as good as Trevor Lawrence was at Clemson to being as meh as he's been at the pros without
Right.
just screwing it up every step of the way. And the Jags have done that. That's, again, I'm going to come back to all of this proof of concept, that I rely on too much. We haven't seen Trevor Lawrence really explode into anything. I don't know that we've seen this moment from Liam Cohen that I'm willing to give Liam Cohen all the credit for. I give that credit to Baker Mayfield. So what I feel like I have a head coach that may or may not be him, with a quarterback that may or may not have any in him after the organization has done all of this to him, with a roster that's pretty good but always chronically underperforms. Like, I think the AFC South is going to be tougher this year than some people think. If I had to bank on the Colts or I had to bank on the Jags, I'm betting your house I'm not betting my house, but I'm betting your house on the Colts. I'd much rather have the Colts in that bet.
I guess we just agree that the Titans are not that team. That's about all we agree on right now, that the Titans aren't going to make the AFC South any better. And I guess we both agree that neither one of us is high in the Texans. I mean, that's part of my Jaguars thing is I'm not that high in the Texans. So, but getting back to the Jaguars, boom or bust, yeah, I see the ceiling for them. I really do. Like, I'm not saying they're going to be a Super Bowl contender or anything. But again, my ceiling is I'm picking the Jaguars to win the AFC South, but I get the bust potential. I do. I have a less skepticism about Liam Cohen than you, although, yes, his time with the Rebs was not great as offensive coordinator. That was a little messy. And maybe Baker the coach maker, right? Like, all of a sudden, Josh Grizzard is getting a coaching job a year from now. We'll just know it's Baker Mayfield is the secret sauce, I guess. So it's interesting. But I guess the AFC South, we might need a bet on this or something. We might need a Super Bowl week steak dinner bet or something here.
Oh yeah. We'll have a steak dinner Super Bowl bet. Who has the better record at the end of the year? The Colts or the Jags? I like that. We'll still expense it to the bosses. Okay.